Whether it's cracking codes, halting hackers, or finding forensic evidence, the FBI uses science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM, to help the American people stay safe in nearly every investigation every day. And that's exactly what we're here to talk about today. So we've got a great discussion planned for you for the next half an hour here, where we're going to be talking to three great guests and three panelists that are going to talk about their backgrounds in STEM here at the FBI. If you want to ask questions, please feel free to use the hashtag AskFBI or submit them in the comments field, and we will get to them during our conversation here. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and get started. First, we have Unit Chief Marilyn Melky from the FBI's Weapons and Mass Destruction Directorate. And so, Marilyn, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, sure. I've been an FBI agent for over 15 years. I've worked mainly in Washington, D.C. This is where I started my career. I've traveled extensively around the world, mainly in the Middle East. Let's see, I've used my science immediately upon entry into the Bureau, and that was on the anthrax investigations that began in 2001, shortly after 9/11. And subsequent to that, I worked counterterrorism throughout the Bureau. And I then worked in the Weapons of Mass Destruction Directorate in the Radiological and Nuclear Countermeasures Unit. I went on to the International Operations Division, and then now I find myself back in the Weapons of Mass Destruction Directorate, applying my STEM background in the Biological Countermeasures Unit.
Thank you, Marilyn. And so up next we have Supervisory Special Agent Hadley Etienne from our Washington field office. So Hadley, could you please tell us about your background and your experience?
Thank you, Steve. I currently serve as supervisor for the Major Cybercrime Squad here at the Washington field office. And our team travels the world to investigate and apprehend bad guys who hack into financial or government-based computer systems. I also have a background, like the panel here, in science and engineering. And thankfully, when I joined the Bureau about 13 years ago, not only did I use that background to work bank robberies and violent crime for about 3 years, then they moved me over to cyber, where not only did I add on to what I'd learned as undergrad, but they sent us to training where we could advance some of that some cyber skills, learning how to use technology to solve crimes. And so these 13 years has been great.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And we also have Supervisory Special Agent Heather Thew from the FBI's Laboratory Division. Heather, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, Steve. Thanks. Yeah, I've been with the FBI for almost 13 years. I worked primarily in the Philadelphia division as a case agent, but I joined our evidence response team in Philadelphia, and there's an evidence response team in all of our field offices, and I joined the one in Philadelphia soon after I got to the office there, because that's really what I wanted to do in the FBI, was be a part of that team. And I got to use a lot of my great science skills and experience being on that team, and as a case agent. Now I am a supervisory special agent at the laboratory division, where I get to work with a lot more great scientists, both as part of the lab and the other wonderful units that we have there at the lab. And I'm in the evidence response team unit. We at the unit support all of our field teams, our evidence response teams, our hazardous evidence response teams, and our underwater search and evidence response teams from that unit.
Thank you very much, Heather, and thanks everyone for providing your background. So let's get right into it. So I wanted to talk about how each of you use STEM, your STEM skills in your careers. So I'm sure our viewers, especially those with similar backgrounds, are curious how they could apply their education and experience here at the FBI. So Marilyn, could we start with you and talk a little bit about that?
Okay, sure. Let's see. I think that it was an absolutely logical fit for me to use my STEM background, because when you look at the scientific method, it absolutely and directly parallels the investigative methods or techniques that we use here in the Bureau as investigators. Let's see, we start, as a scientist, you start with a hypothesis. And as a special agent, you start with the presumption that someone has committed a crime, right? So they kind of parallel each other. And then, let's go back to a scientist, right? The scientist then gathers data through experiments and such to support their hypothesis. And then as a special agent investigator, we gather evidence to support the presumption of a crime that's been committed. Further to that, as a scientist, applying the scientific method, we would prepare all of the evidence that we gathered and submit that for peer review, right, to see if other scientists believe that we have adequately supported our hypothesis. And then as a special agent investigator, you are putting the evidence together, letting the evidence speak for itself, just as the scientist lets the data speak for itself. We let that evidence speak for itself and present that to prosecutors, defense attorneys, judges, magistrates, whatever, in order to support our presumption of criminal activity. So it was logical, it made sense, and I apply that and have throughout my career.
I really like that, how, really that's the basis of STEM, right, is science. So applying that scientific method throughout, I think, is really interesting in the way you describe that. So now I'm interested to find out more from Hadley, your perspective, too, in that same thing.
Well, I was extremely fortunate when I had applied and joined the Bureau with my cyber background. So I studied both computer science and information technology. And as technologies become ubiquitous in our lives today, it's also become integral in utilizing the skills I learned in reviewing and analyzing data and logs to help solve crime. And so, for example, working anything from a kidnapping case where you could be tracking a cell phone to just a hacking case or intrusion case, as we call it, where a bad guy is hacked into a bank, taking control of a bank account, and then wired monies overseas. All the cyber training that I received in my degree, I could utilize in not only understanding the programming that went into that program and code that the bad guy broke to get into the bank, but then analyzing it and working backwards to track him and then subsequently arrest him. So it actually intertwines perfectly in the cyber and IT field for what I do.
And it does sound like that. So Heather, how about yourself, too?
Sure. On our evidence response teams, it's not needed to be a scientist, but it's great to have that science background on those teams because we use a lot of advanced methods, techniques, equipment, and that science and technology background is really great to have. So you better understand just exactly how those methods are working. A lot of times, if you have a better understanding of the chemistry that goes into that chemical reaction that we're applying at the crime scene, or the physics of that alternate light source that we're applying to the crime scene to locate hidden evidence, it's a great way to be able to use our tools better at those scenes and be able to process that scene the best way we can.
Absolutely. And so this kind of is a really good segue into the next part. And I want to talk more about the education and training aspect. So what type of education and training did you all pursue leading up to getting into the FBI and joining the FBI? So Marilyn, could you share with us that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I didn't plan from the onset to become a special agent. I was a young person that enjoyed science. I enjoyed figuring out how things worked. I pursued my first degree, and I am a first-generation college graduate in my family. So I had to be creative with how I even funded my education. I took a job with the government, with the United States Government Department of Defense. I got my bachelor's degree in chemistry. That allowed me to go on to my master's degree, and I succeeded in my master's degree. While doing that, I invented a world's first detection system that combined some unique modalities, and because of that was offered a studentship at Oxford University in England, where I finished my doctorate degree in biochemistry. So although I didn't plan to become an agent, that set me up very well. As I explained earlier, very applicable. I think it sets us apart from the typical cadre of folks that decide to be agents, but it also puts us at a very unique advantage.
Absolutely. And so, Hadley, how about yourself?
Likewise, I always had a love for science and technology. And so I originally studied computer science and was fortunate enough to also then go into an advanced degree in information technology. In both those studies, there were some advanced courses in mathematics. In the computer science side, it was more on authoring and creating computer programs. And then in the IT side, it was a combination of software and hardware and interacting with customers and figuring out solutions that met customer needs. Upon completing those degrees, I worked for some years on Wall Street and was able to actually work with market makers and traders and kind of create programs to help them make trades on the stock market. After a while, I moved industries, still as a programmer, and I was looking for something a little more challenging, and that's what led me to the path to kind of use those skills to move into the government. But again, critical was the skills that I acquired learning the computer science, learning, analyzing, programming, and code, debugging your code, and looking through the finer granular details, which then transferred right into working cases and analyzing evidence. And so that's how those kind of traditional STEM backgrounds, engineering, computer science, the biologies, all work together to create that kind of blend that makes for a successful agent.
And so did you, as you became a special agent, I mean, did you see that before, that you're going to be able to use that technology background that you did out on Wall Street, when you became a special agent down the road? Is that something you foresee?
I did, and I could say that I was pleasantly surprised at how fast that the growth in technology and my background in computer science was utilized. Like I said, I worked violent crime for a while and kidnappings, and I immediately became a subject matter expert on tracking cell phones, and we saved a lot of lives. And so it was a pleasure to work that violation and to be integral in actually saving lives every day using my cyber background.
Absolutely. And Heather, how about yourself? I'm sort of picking up a theme where it's kind of getting to this higher calling and applying what you might have had background-wise here at the FBI. So could you share with us the educational and training portion?
Absolutely. Just like Marilyn Hadley, pardon me. I was a scientist, and I really loved science, but I also had this desire to serve. Right, and I think that the FBI has been able to fulfill both of those things for me, being able to work as a scientist in a lot of ways, as a case agent even, but also serving the American public. I really enjoyed science in high school. I went on to study anthropology and archaeology in college. And I started to work as an archaeologist, and I really loved that. That was really neat. So, I mean, a lot of people out there might think, boy, I have to study a certain thing to be a special agent. You don't. Do what you love. And there's a path for everybody. There's lots of special agents with diverse backgrounds in the FBI. So as an archaeologist, I started working on historic burials and really got a love for osteology, the study of bones. And I thought, boy, how can I apply that love to something more modern and to serve people? And I thought, well, forensic anthropology. And so I started to study that, osteology, forensic anthropology. I got my master's degree in human biology, which covers those disciplines. And while I was taking one of those classes, I met an FBI agent who was on our evidence response team. And he had been an archaeologist. And I thought, wow, what an interesting path. And he's serving as a case agent, FBI agent, but also still working hand in hand with forensic anthropologists, searching for clandestine burials, human remains, and recovering them from crime scenes. What a great way to use that science, skill, experience. And so that kind of planted the seed in my brain. Well, maybe someday I could be an FBI agent. I went on to work for the United Nations in Kosovo, recovering war crime victims, for the DOD, in identifying fallen service members, and then I came around to applying to be a special agent. For a lot of us, special agent is our second or third career sometimes, right? And that's okay, and that's a great thing because you come with all of this great work experience. And so I was able to put all that great work experience on my application, and so that worked out for me.
Very nice. And so what I want to do now, because we already are getting, from what I'm seeing here on the Facebook live stream, we're getting some great questions already coming in from our viewers. And so I want to take a quick break. First of all, thanks everyone for joining so far. My name is Steve Lewis. I'm from the Office of Public Affairs. And we've been talking about STEM and STEM careers at the FBI. So we've got a great panelists here sharing their backgrounds. We just talked about their education and training and how basically their pathway into the FBI, which was all these great stories. So I want to say, if you do want to ask a question to the panelists, now's your chance. You can submit questions using the hashtag AskFBI or right in the comments field, which I'm watching right now. And so we have a great question here from Tomas. Tomas asks, and anybody here can grab this one, what are the jobs available to someone who has a PhD in biology?
Wow. Well, I'd say come talk to me.
There you go, Tomas. Marilyn, you guys talk together.
I very much want to speak to you, Tomas. Well, my unit is the Biological Countermeasures Unit. It's within the Weapons of Mass Destruction Directorate. We work a lot with other agencies, but also within the other divisions within the FBI, such as the Laboratory Division and SIRG. That's a whole separate, a lot more technical division. But with a degree, a PhD in biology, coming to work in my unit, either as a special agent, because we do have PhD special agents, but we also have a lot of PhDs who are professional staff. And they are incredible within the directorate, the Weapons of Mass Destruction Directorate. And they are able to give subject matter expertise input into investigations, into ongoing investigations, but also as those investigations are evolving. When there's an incident, we are able to pick up the phone. They're always attached. That's one thing about the Bureau. You're always attached to somebody. We're able to reach out and grab their opinion, their highly educated and experienced opinion on many different things that we're able to apply to our investigations. So they help us make decisions. There are many places within the Weapons of Mass Destruction Directorate to apply that biology PhD, but also within the Laboratory Division and others, the field offices themselves.
Right.
Every field office has a Weapons of Mass Destruction Directorate appointed coordinator, and they have assistants as well. So they're out there, they're the face of the FBI in the local environment, right? So they're dealing with our state and local law enforcement, they're dealing with public health officials and academics from universities and private industry.
And I think another good thing to ask to Tomas, I'm going to expand on your question. And what if people don't have like a, if they want to become a special agent, they want to utilize like a background like a PhD in biology, do people need to have like a shooting background or firearms background or some sort of training like that to join as well? I mean, or is that something that comes later on at the academy?
That is so great that you asked that. And I hate to grab on to answer another
No,
question, but
please go for it.
I'm going to do it because I am not only a special agent that's got a PhD in biochemistry, but I'm also a firearms instructor. And who would have thunk it? I went from doing this, to doing this. I'm not, and the thing is, I think as scientists, we can break things down. We are very detail-oriented. We take instruction very well. And so I had no background at all. I really did not like guns at all. I don't like violence or anything like that. I come to the Bureau, I go to the academy, no background. We have the most amazing experts at that academy. Your teachers are the best in the world, not just the best of the best. They're amazing. And they teach you, you just do what they say. You do what they tell you to do. And it took me from never having any experience in firearms to becoming a firearms instructor. So I'm very good at it, and I'm very safe with it, and I love teaching. So I'm able to teach other agents and qualify other agents. We have a lot of folks coming in to visit the Bureau, and we do demonstrations for them on just how we handle firearms and the different firearms. So yeah, no worries there. Did you guys want to?
That was perfect.
Sorry.
Well,
no,
thanks, Marilyn,
great.
and thanks, Tomas, for the great question. So again, if you do have questions for our panelists, we'll be breaking a couple more times here in the process to answer your questions. So keep them coming. I already see another one here, but I'm going to save it for a little bit later. So back to the questions I had. So we talked a little bit about your backgrounds. We talked about your education and training. I want to shift over to talk about challenges. So what are some of the challenges you face day to day working at the FBI and fulfilling your responsibilities? And anybody can grab this one.
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the challenges that we really enjoy, actually, and I know this is across the Bureau, is the challenge of being ready for tomorrow, right? We know that we've got challenges that are going to be coming down the pike. We're going to have to address, we're going to have to get out the door and be able to meet those challenges, the threats that we are assuming are out there coming. And we love that challenge of being able to know and prepare and to try to stay one step ahead, you know. And science and technology and mathematics and engineering is a big part of how we are preparing in the Bureau for that challenge.
Yeah, we see the same thing at work in cyber cases. Cyber or computers and technology are always changing, they're always evolving. There's new apps, there's new programs. So trying to stay ahead of that and stay ahead of the bad guys using that technology is a challenge, but it's a challenge that we enjoy and we look forward to.
We love that challenge so much that we reach out to embrace that challenge with students. We have, within the Weapons of Mass Destruction Directorate, we attend annually the internationally genetically engineered machine competition. So the Jamboree, it's international.
Wow.
We reach out to that so that we can stay ahead of the sort of incredibly rapid development of science and technology. But we also enjoy very much translating what the questions are that come from investigators within the Bureau. New things come up, and it's folks like us that are able to translate for investigators what it is that they're looking at, because sometimes they don't have that scientific or cyber expertise, and we're able to help them understand what it is that they're looking at and what might be indications of criminal activity or the evidence that they're looking for. We enjoy that very much. It is a challenge, but we enjoy it.
So speaking of challenges, I'm also interested to find out if anyone has any really great stories that they could share that sort of sticks out in their careers that I think sharing with our viewers here that they might be interested to hear about.
I mean, I can start. So I won't, not to say that one violation is better than the other, but I will say that working cyber actually is probably the most diverse as far as casework. For example, we had a case some years ago where these hackers were hacking in and stealing some credit reports and posting them online. And the victims were politicians, celebrities, and we were able to meet those victims. We were able to work the case and work with the data and the forensics. And just working that case, we learned so much. And then we're able to take that and make it as a model to kind of work other cases. But I will say the fun part of it was meeting the celebrities and meeting the politicians. And that's something that you wouldn't expect in a cyber case where you think a cyber agent is sitting in front of a computer. But no, we're out there and we're engaging people and we're working these cases and we're putting bad guys away.
Thanks, Hadley. Anybody else want to share a story? Or
I had a fun one.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, okay. So this was many years ago, but at the behest of the Mexican president, our president at the time, it was the Bush administration, they had asked us, the FBI, to go to Mexico City to investigate, along with our NTSB partners, a plane crash that had killed several of their high-ranking government officials. So that was so exciting. Especially, I felt like I wanted to pinch myself. 4 hours after notification, we're on the tarmac, we're flown to Mexico City, we start investigating this. The NTSB investigators, being engineers themselves, described to us, the agents who were standing in this massive debris field of a plane crash. They're explaining to us that they need us to find this critical piece of engineering that came from within the wing of the aircraft. And so they described it in very engineer-like terms, which I could understand and actually visualize. And I think a lot of STEM folks can understand that ability to visualize something that's described to them. And as these investigators are describing to us what it is that they want us to go and search for, I said, excuse me, I think I saw what you're describing. These two guys, very respectful, but they did look at me like I was a little crazy because you guys just got here. The FBI just got here. You could not have found this yet. And I said, well, humor me, follow me. And about, I don't know, it's a couple hundred yards away, maybe a couple hundred feet away, I say, is this the thing you were talking about? And they're like, that's it. And so finding that, and as quickly as we found it, helped the Mexican officials kind of try to start explaining to their people that, the things that led to this plane crash, maybe it wasn't what they had thought immediately. They were going for criminal activity. And to be able to be such a good partner to our neighbors to the south really makes us feel good, because Americans are all about giving. We're, I think, the largest givers personally in the world, and being able to give to our neighbors to the south and having them reciprocate, it just led to so many wonderful things, and the ability to put behind us a tragedy like that, to answer those questions, very good feeling for me and my team members at the time. So that was, the STEM ability allowed me to do that, and I was really pleased that I could give back like that.
Thanks, Marilyn. So as we're talking here, we've definitely some more questions, great questions that are coming in from our viewers. So I want to give you guys an opportunity to answer these too. I got a question here. First, before I get to this, though, I do want to welcome everyone who has been tuning in so far. We're actually keeping it going a little longer because of the great questions we've actually received. So I'm Steve Lewis from the Office of Public Affairs, and we are talking about STEM careers at the FBI. We've just covered some really great topics from experience all the way to education and training. And so speaking of that, from experience, we have a question that came in, and if you want to ask questions, you can use the hashtag AskFBI or put them in the comments field, and I'll see it right here. So here's one from Connor, and Connor asks, I am a software engineer, and do I need any certifications if I wanted to move into cybersecurity as a special agent? Hadley, it looks like you might know the answer to this one, maybe, or?
Right. I
Okay.
mean, your general degree in software engineering, at least as far as the Bureau is concerned, is a great start. Because once you get in, which I have personally enjoyed, is we will send you to every and all cyber certification courses that there are. And we, not only is it encouraged, at some point it's actually mandated that we go and stay out there in the field. There's a convention annually called Black Hat DEF CON that a lot of guys go and learn and partake in some of the training there. So again, your degree is the great start. There's no need to use your own money for those certifications, because when you get in, we'll pay for the rest.
Thanks, Hadley. We have another one here. Ruth. Ruth says, I have a degree in criminal justice, and my major is in cybercrime. She's wondering, too, how could she apply and prepare based off of that?
So I love that mix, right? Criminal justice and cybercrime. It actually puts you in a great position to come in and start applying what you've learned in school right away. Be it working a cyber case, a public corruption case, or even a counterintelligence or counterterrorism case. Technology is ubiquitous in every one of those violations. And so what you do is you're going to bring in that expertise, understanding anything from some of the apps that they use to encrypt and hide their communications, and how to basically use our techniques to then capture some of that and collect evidence. Or once cell phones or computers or laptops are brought in, you'll use some of that education to then further get some forensic evidence off those to further your case. So you're putting yourself in a great position utilizing both the criminal justice and cyber crime degree. That's it.
I think Ruth's in a very unique position, but there's one thing that I would like to add. What do you guys think about the life experiences? Once you're set up like this, not necessarily having to have that advanced degree, but you've got a degree in science, I think that life experiences really add a lot to your ability to become a good agent. What do you guys think?
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the FBI is looking for people with work experience, and that can be in the science that you're interested in and that you are an expert in, and then come to the Bureau. That's great. Bring all those great skills. That's going to look great on your application. And, also, you don't have to be a special agent. There's lots of other positions inside the FBI that we really depend on to make, all of our great cases and keep America safe. Forensic examiners and operations specialists and intel analysts, all of those people, we all work together to do what we need to do in terms of tackling the cases and the investigations and being proactive on all these things.
That's right.
Absolutely. Thanks, Heather. And thank you, everyone, for answering those. So I do have a couple more that I'd like to ask. We do have a couple more that I'm seeing here before we wrap up. And again, please keep the questions coming. Ask FBI, that hashtag, or in the comments field, and we'll get to them. And so thanks for tuning in so far, everyone. So how does it feel to contribute to the overall FBI mission using your STEM backgrounds?
Wow, that's a fantastic question. For me, that is such a powerful question, and it evokes such a powerful emotional response for me. As I said earlier, first generation college graduate in my family. I was not going to be able to achieve the educational goals that I had without the taxpayer dollars, right? So my first job was with the Department of Defense, and they paid for my first degree. And that got me started. So I always I had this incredible desire to give back to my country. Even though I lived overseas for over a decade, I wanted to come back and give. So to give in this position is an incredibly fulfilling feeling. The money doesn't matter,
right.
Nothing really matters. When you wake up in the morning, and this is over more than 15 years, I'm waking up every morning and I'm excited to go to work, and I love what I do, and I love that feeling that I get, and I meet incredible people like this just every day. You know, you can just be in the cafeteria, and these are the folks that you're meeting and interacting with, and that's amazing. So I'm on a rush every day. What do you think?
Marilyn, I agree. And I would have never thought that, you know, starting out playing with a Commodore 64 and Atari.
I've had one.
Right. Would have turned into, you know, a career like this. You know, I love computers, I love technology, and to put that together and serve our country and just keep, you know, folks safe and serve, it's a dream come true. I love my job.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I got a little anecdote about having Thanksgiving dinner with my my extended family, and one of my in-laws said, "Hey, how's work going? You know, I've got this great position where I work, and I just don't know if I'm contributing. I just don't feel fulfilled." And it hit me. I was like, I will never have that problem. I will never have that problem working for the FBI, because I feel fulfilled. I feel like I'm giving back. I feel like what I'm doing is important. So, and that's a really great feeling to have when you go to work.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone, for that. So I'd say this, and I'm looking here at a couple different questions, and James and Abby, we'll get to you real quick. But before we do that, do you have any good advice? And you sort of touched upon it with you know, the life experience thing, and so sort of along those lines, like, what kind of advice do you have for potential applicants that might be already in a STEM sort of background in their career now, maybe in the private sector? What kind of advice would you give to those that are interested in maybe applying for the FBI and really serving this higher purpose?
Well, let's see. There's certain requirements that we have that maybe don't always come to the forefront, and those, you know, you want to make sure that you stay on the right side of the law. And even though right now we live in really different times, you know, I don't think, you know, I'm kind of older, but I've never seen so much change, right? So we even have state laws are changing. And I think my advice would be stay on the right side of all of the federal laws. I think that would be our most important thing. And stay really fit, because fitness is a very large part of this job.
That's right.
And even if, I mean, obviously fitness is just a good thing in general, even if you don't apply for a special agent job, but that's great. Hadley or Heather, what do you?
No, I mean, I agree. The fitness thing is a big aspect, but as long as you're doing what you love, you know, you're going to shine and just excel. And just be a blessing in that career. And then those are the type of people that we're looking for. And just being the best in that career and bringing that then in to serve the government. That's the best that you can do.
Absolutely. And you know, we've got the great resources on the internet now. It explains a lot of the process. It explains a lot of what we're looking for in terms of standards when you go to apply. So, you know, that's a really good resource right there, too.
And Heather, that's a great segue. For those of you who may not be familiar, if you are looking specifically for information on the current positions that we have, especially those that are STEM related, FBIjobs.gov is where you want to go. So FBI Jobs has those openings, but it also has the standards and the requirements for the application process. So that's where you want to get all of your information and a great starting point. Okay, so questions from the audience time, and thanks everyone again for tuning in and listening to our great Facebook Live discussion on STEM careers at the FBI. We are getting ready to wrap up, but if you do want to ask questions, again, it's Ask FBI, that hashtag, or in the comments field, and we got a couple here on the feed that I'm seeing now from James and Abby, and I'm going to try to combine these two. James and Abby both asked engineering-related questions, and so I think the biggest thing is, are there jobs out there with people with like maybe an electrical engineering background, and then I think one that Heather, you might be able to answer, maybe in that same kind of light, can an engineer be part of like an evidence response team?
Absolutely.
And so I guess let's start with that. The engineering part. Are there jobs out there for people that are engineers?
My boss, my supervisor in the Weapons of Mass Destruction Directorate, is an engineer. He's actually an engineer, and we've got several engineers within the directorate. They all work on different things, but having that engineering mentality, you are able, I love the way engineers think. We need that kind of rigorous application of scientific thought processes for investigations that we do. How we do those investigations, it's fantastic. And I think that these are unique engineers. Sometimes within the STEM, I know that we always jibe each other, right? So the biologists are usually a lot more sociable. And I think so that might be one side of the spectrum, and maybe the farther side would be the engineers, right? So you would think, right? That's what we tease each other about. But those engineers are amazing in the way that they dig down into an investigation, and I love following them. And that's why I think one of the reasons why I'm very happy with my chain of command. There's a lot of engineering there, so yeah.
And actually, we actually have two positions that I know of that the engineering discipline would fit right into. One of them is called the data analyst, and another one's called the digital or data operations specialists. And both of those career fields are looking for folks with that engineering and mathematics background. They're specifically designed for folks that have that training and that mindset. And they would then come into the Bureau and immediately start working cases and working with the agents to work cases.
And Heather, I think that, speaking from the lab perspective, can an engineer work in a lab if they don't have like a lab background? Can they end up there somehow, or is that?
Sure. I mean, there's lots of great positions at the lab for lots of different fields of science. We have amazing examiners at the lab. They are literally the world's best subject matter experts, and they are the ones that are so integral to cracking the cases quickly. And a lot of times, we see that every day, the great work that they're doing. And an engineer definitely would fit into one of the examination processes that we do there. That's definitely a great background to have. And in terms of the evidence response team, absolutely. You can be a special agent or you can be a support person in the field and be on the evidence response teams that are in the field divisions. They are the ones that you see going to the major events, the critical investigations, and they are the first ones on the ground to go address that crime scene and document it and collect the evidence and send it back to those experts at the lab.
Hadley, a while back, I think we were talking about sort of the work-life balances and challenges there. We have a question that came from Otis, who's asking, how's maintaining a family and social life? How does, and anybody can answer this really. I wasn't trying to just remember that conversation, but if anyone can answer this, how does maintaining a family and social life, how does that kind of tie into maintaining a really demanding career here at the FBI?
I would like to say one quick thing. From the single mom perspective, you would think that it's not doable, but it's funny. The FBI is a lot like a family, and you find a lot, you know, for, I guess, good or bad. I don't think it's bad. I think it's very, very good that you feel within your work surrounded by family. I always have. That's why I was able to be a single mom and have this career, because of my FBI family. My biological family is very far, you know, physically from where I live, and so you're able to balance things because there's a lot of give and take, and you work, we're all just very small parts of a very large machine, or very small organelles within a very large organism, you know, and that helps us balance things, I think. We rely a lot on each other, and we step up for each other.
Does anyone else want to grab this one too, as far as that family and social life, maintaining that?
No, Marilyn hit it on the head. I mean, it's the same with any career or job that you love. You know, you're going to put your passion into it, but your family comes first, and it's always been the message here. And we've always taken care of each other here in the office, and always reminded each other, hey, it's time to go home and be with your family. And every holiday and on the weekends, it's not only encouraged, but it's welcomed. Go spend that time with your family so that you can come back re-energized, and we can protect America together.
Excellent. Heather, did...
No, it's great. I mean,
okay.
and we work hard, right? I mean, there's a lot of long hours. I'm not going to, you know, we definitely realize that too. But then there's that ebb and flow, right? And then you can have the time back with your family. Right. You know, once, you know, we overcome that, you know, the thing that's making our time, you know, really integral to be spending it at work for that weekend, that holiday, whatever it is. But then, you know, we get that back too. So,
so I do want to start kind of getting to the end here, mainly because I do want to plug one more time for those who are interested in hearing more about what we have opportunity-wise at the FBI, to visit the FBIjobs.gov website. But I really want to say thanks for everyone who joined today, our panelists. So again, thank you to Unit Chief Marilyn Melky, Supervisory Special Agent Hadley Etienne, and Supervisory Special Agent Heather Dew for coming today and sharing such wonderful stories and your experiences. I think my favorite part was really hearing about how you saw that higher calling and wanted to take your STEM experience to that next level and applying it here at the FBI. And I think that our viewers really kind of picked up on that theme. And so I hope that one of the big goals of our conversation is to inspire others to kind of answer that higher calling as well, and applying their STEM skills and background here. Does anyone have any final thoughts before we close up here?
Oh, good. No, I just didn't. My entry into the Bureau, I never thought about the Bureau as a end goal. I didn't know that this existed, so I'm very pleased that you were bringing this to the masses in this way. I think I would have known earlier on about the FBI, and it would have been a goal of mine. It's fantastic. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
You're very welcome. So thanks everyone for joining us again. Great discussion on STEM careers at the FBI. I'm Steve Lewis in the Office of Public Affairs, and we appreciate it, and tune in next time. Thank you so much.